If you're wondering how the hell Solana could possibly get to $1,000, well, you are in luck. Today, I'm going to break down how exactly that's going to happen and what I believe is the stepping stone Solana is going to have to take in order to get to $1,000. I'm going to show you if it's feasible or not. And again, kind of like the overall landscape in terms of how this is going to happen for Solana in general, right? So I'm going to take your attention now over to the screen. And as we can see, let's just start off with just some numbers and put an idea on how large of a jump this is currently from where we are right now, where we have been in the past, right? So its current all-time high, to put this in perspective, is about $260 odd, okay? So we're looking right here, and that equivalated to, behind the scenes sort of stuff is a $76 billion market cap. So we're talking about size-wise, I think it was like third or fourth in terms of the market cap rankings at this point back in 2021, right? So it was huge, okay? And for a project that was only out for like a year or so, that's impressive. We all know that was because of SBF and things like that, but nevertheless, it's still impressive, right? So the circulating supply now, this is a metric that a lot of people gloss over, but let me tell you how freaking imperative it is, right? So 302 million SOL tokens were entered in circulation at this point in time. So let's actually break down, let's go on a little road trip here and figure out how much we're gonna have to actually increase by in order to get to that magic 1,000 number. Well, if we start off nice and simple, again, almost a third of what it was back at its all-time high. If we just go to $100 in 2025, guys, guess this. It's going to have to get to $62.5 billion in the market cap, aka demand aspect, which is almost what it was at its previous all-time high. And why? Why are these numbers so close together, yet the price is so far apart? Well, again, because of this, right? Circulating supply. When you have more tokens, it dilutes the price. You have to have X amount more demand or money entered into the project for the price to be the same as what it was before, okay? So this is going to be key to look at, okay? We're going to use the same number moving forward here because ultimately we're looking at the same point in time. Therefore, I believe the same roughly amount of tokens will be in circulation. So I think the next reasonable step is to jump 5x. Now we can say a 5x on the market cap because the circulating supply is staying the same. So if we 5x the market cap, aka demand, to make a $500 Solana token, right, we're going to have to accumulate $313 billion worth of demand. That's just nuts to think of, right? That's just crazy. So when we're talking about a time frame for 2025, I think this is possible for Solana. Keep in mind, again, remember, 2021, it was like third or fourth on the rankings and had a $76 billion market cap with a hell of a lot less progress as to where it is now. I'm going to kind of gloss over some of that stuff in a moment to show you some ideas. But again, if we 2x this again and actually get to that magic 1,000 Solana, price point, guys, $625 billion market cap. That's like more than Bitcoin's right now. That's massive, okay? And again, that's all got to do with this. Again, that's got to entirely do with the circulating supply. To put it in perspective, if we had the same circulating supply as what we did back in 2021, let's just say 300 million tokens, right? We would actually be just under less than this. So we would probably need about $290 billion market cap, right? Rather than a $625 billion market cap. So yeah, you can see how, essentially increasing the amount of tokens in circulation has a detrimental impact on how much the price can explode, okay? But, again, I think that's pretty reasonable. We're 8xing essentially from the, previous all-time high to what we all think the next all-time high will be. Now, to put some numbers into context and to give you actually my no BS true response here, guys, I think Solana will be happy if it gets to $409 in the next bull market. The market cap in that case will be $256 billion. And the supply is the same, right? 625 million tokens. Now, I think, and a very important thing we have to remember in crypto is, it's one thing to look at 2025, but the real unlock, where we will really make generational wealth, is actually in 2030. Hear me out. We think of the bear market as a point in time to accumulate, sure, but typically the bear markets from the previous bear market is a point where we have higher lows, meaning that the lows that we find at that point were higher than the previous bull markets. We've gone up, okay? So in my mind, okay, I think to myself, it's pretty easy for me to say, hey, I'm just going to sell all my Solana tokens in 2025 and just reinvest. But actually keeping a portion, a certain percentage of Solana tokens moving into the next bull market might actually be beneficial because in 2030, for example, those multipliers are just exponential. They just stretch even more. We may never see the current 14 $15 price tag ever again. We might see a minimum of only like $50. And so then we're like one step ahead, we're like 3 or 4x on top of that $50, if that makes sense, moving into the next bull market. So in my opinion, and this is the kind of example I used here for my previous video, guys, I mean, look, you can turn, if you, for example, purchase $3,000 at the then price, you could, 20x realistically. But, if you move into 2030, you might be able to 150x, for example, right? Because those do extrapolate and expand and get bigger and bigger. This is the multipliers, right? So yeah, that's why it's important to think about this in the long term. And I do think there will be, it's not an if, it's a when, Solana does hit the $1,000 mark. It'll happen, but I think, it won't happen in 2025, which is why, if you think about it now, right, we can definitely look at some large multiples here if we just hold some of our tokens, okay? So I know what some of you are thinking, right? Why Solana? Kyron, I don't like Solana. Why? And I'll admit, I'm going to be completely transparent, guys. I don't actually, never really have liked Solana in the past. Been too much stuff that have been happening in the past, and also the network's been down way too many times than what I'd like. But we must give them some credit, because what I'm about to explain to you should hopefully reveal some important indicators that maybe you didn't consider before. Again, I'm not someone who falls in bed with an idea or project. If a new thing comes up or I do some research and I go, oh, wow, actually, I was wrong. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to change my MO. Okay, so this is one of those such cases. I think Solana is a perfect hedge into what I'm about to explain to you. Let me break it down for you in simple English, right? So we have to ask ourselves, right? This is for every project, but we'll do it in this case. What is the actual purpose of Solana? Okay, what is its intended purpose? Well, we all know, okay, most of us should know, it's a general purpose layer 1 blockchain, meaning that it's kind of like the base layer. And what happens is you can build applications on top of it, right? Because you pretty much, these applications rely on this, the infrastructure, the speed, the security, and everything else that goes along with a layer 1 network. And then they can build applications on top of it, okay? But they choose to build on this network, aka Solana, because they like this. The base of it is really, is either user-friendly, they like it, it's easy to develop, or also the ecosystem is growing and growing. So what is Solana's use case? Where is it targeting itself? Well, okay, it's one thing to go, okay, well, Solana is a layer 1 general purpose blockchain. It does everything, right? DeFi, NFTs, IoT, so on and so forth. But what makes it actually attractive or attracting, right? Well, what does Solana essentially appeal to? What's its target market? And we have to also ask ourselves this, not just in the sense of Solana, but also anyone who's owned a business or owns a business knows this is super important, and that is we must find our target audience and cater our services to them. The same thing goes for any businesses at any scale. Obviously, the larger you are, the larger your audience can be. But we have to ask ourselves, who is Solana's target audience, right? Well, personally, I say yes, it's still a general purpose layer 1 blockchain, but it focuses on Web 3. Now, we have other projects like Hedera, Algorand, so on and so forth, that they target slightly different niches, right? So we have XDC Network. Those guys are strictly focused on TradeFi, but they have a public token, a public network that we can all use in crypto, Web3. But they niche into something else. Algorand and Hedera, they have created networks purpose-built for enterprise-grade markets, right? Institutions, nations using their infrastructure in real-world situations. Of course, yes, it's got a fundamentally sound base for Web3, but Solana's marketing and strategy is strictly Web3. And I'm going to show you something why it's very important in a second, because there actually aren't as many dedicated players to this sort of narrative as you might think, okay? So now we can get an idea of how much demand it might actually be required to push Solana to that $1,000 price point, albeit in 2025, 26, or 2030, okay? So in my opinion, this is very important, guys. Solana is a great contender to be one of the Web3 kings. This is one of the aspects I want to touch on, but also more importantly, one of the key players that onboard users from Web 2 to Web 3. They're two different things. To onboard someone is to be a household brand name, just to be like Google's or Apple's. Like when you go to a new sporting event or when you start a new sport or hobby, what do you typically gravitate to? You gravitate to the known brand or company and you test that first. Nike, Adidas, or whatever it might be, right? So that's essentially what they want to target themselves at. Those two different things. They want to create a great Web3 experience, but also be that point, that first point into this new ecosystem, right? And I know you might be thinking, Karen, why the hell would anyone want to focus on that transition, right? Why is that really important? Well, because I actually feel like something big is on the horizon. So I feel like over the next 7 years until 2030, even beyond, Web 2 is going to become a place of surveillance, not freedom. GameFi, DeFi, and the metaverse will become more viable as a service because what did the internet do? It democratized information. What's happening now? That's starting to be constricted. So what does crypto do? Well, it also democratizes value. So we can provide these services, this value to people all around the world, any location. Doesn't matter if you're brought up poor or rich, you can all use this equally. And that's the really beautiful thing about it. And so Web3 can provide this as a foundation, which is what Solana is trying to do. And limitless possibilities, as anyone will soon be able to create dApps with no code at all or no experience. And this is key. People just hear this and they go, whatever. Now, one thing I was hired for at my previous job, right? I was working in Web3 and my boss actually told me one day, he goes, Kyron, I want you to stop doing what you're doing and just think about this. I'm hiring you, this is a true story, for your mind, right? For your opinion, for your thoughts. And I thought, what the hell? Like, really, you're hiring me just to get my opinion on things and for my, intelligence, if you will, or my creativity? And he said, yeah, like, I want your opinion on stuff. I want you to like create things. And I thought to myself, that is the information pivot. That's what these computers and that's what this whole decentralized atmosphere is really providing us, right? This freedom and ability to use our brains to its full extent and to create whatever we want. So for a project like Solana, where these things are moving, for someone like myself who has no coding experience, right? But has a mind where I want to really utilize that or want to make some money, I can create dApps and applications that don't require any coder experience to create, but I can do that in Web3. That's the beauty of it, right? I can, especially with AI now, I can create anything online that can be instantly leveraged by millions of people. And this, overall, I think is why Solana and Web3 particularly can be a massive narrative moving into the next few years. So let me just briefly touch on these two aspects. We have the first, which is, the Web3 layer 1 general purpose blockchain. Okay, so Solana does have some competitors in this space, right? So again, we're talking about, layer 1 blockchains, okay, general purpose, but again, Web3 specifically focused here, trying to, create a good framework of applications for what I just explained to you, okay? And so we have competitions like Cardano, we have Polygon, not so much Ethereum, I must say, because Ethereum is more so transitioning to a settlement layer, relying on layer 2s. But I say ish here because Polygon is also looking to do a lot more within Web 2, but I will, fit them in this category for now. The most suited, in my opinion, is Cardano and Near Protocol. We also have Polkadot as well, okay? So, I could have added Cosmos here, for example, but the reason I didn't add Cosmos was simply because it's more so the IBC network itself. It's completely different, right? We're looking at a whole ecosystem built in one place, okay? So yes, good competition. That's not to say that there's going to be one winner. I believe that there's going to be different use cases for either. As long as they're all connected in some capacity, that's great. Now, the really good thing with Solana actually is that we have some promising projects migrating because they need the high throughput, they need the security, they need the decentralization, and they've chosen Solana because it is a great framework. Point in case, Helium, right? IoT, 5G based, like they provide a cell coverage for phones, for example, right? But it's like a distributed service. Anyone can host one of these Helium nodes that provides, 5G data service to a strict location. And we also have Render, obviously distributed rendering as well. So, these are really big projects in their own right, and they require a lot of transactions per second, a lot of uptime, so this is very important that they chose Solana as their native base, okay? And the good thing is the ecosystem's also developing now. This is a key aspect when we're talking about Web3 based projects because we need to see it's actually being leveraged in Web3, and it is, right? So there's about 1,600 projects. I had to painstakingly count those myself, mind you. And about 469 NFTs. Now, we're not going to count those because NFTs will have their place, but I'm not looking at them right now as like a be-all and end-all. So more or less about 1,200 dApps, which is very good considering the project's only been out for about 3 years. So that's one part of it, right? So yes, I do think it can live symbiotically with these projects. Okay, in some capacity, they'll work together, which is good. We also have bridges like the wormhole that makes that sort of stuff seamless. But we also have this transition here where, Solana can really take and shine, right? Which is onboarding users from Web 2 to Web 3. Now, Solana actually is in a unique position because it's offering a mobile phone as a service called the Saga, right? So no other company out there, or at least as prominent as Solana, is offering this. There are some other companies out there creating such things, but Solana is like kind of the forefront of this in a way. So yeah, they created a mobile phone that acts as just a regular device, right? But it also offers seamless access into crypto, a perfect onboarding tool for Web 2 users, right? I want to say though, Wallet is a perfect onboarding tool. While someone can just, grab a phone, for example, and then sign in, use applications and, verify things with the press of a button, that's cool. But it's not going to be a massive hit with Web 2 until it begins to gain what I'm going to mention in a second, which is network effects or actual adoption. So much so that it's actually good for, a friend of mine to use it because I'm using it and it's, growing and growing, kind of like Facebook had back in the day, right? So what does it offer? Well, protection for private keys, improved user experience across dApps, which is important because right now, let's face it, it's a pretty crappy sort of environment, right? UX. And also you can sign transaction using just your fingerprint. So it's just like DeFi in the palm of your hand or Web3 in the palm of your hand. It's fantastic. And, it's also a phone at the same time, right? So it's pretty cool. I do think, as I said, there's going to be some steps required for that to actually become a viable product, but it's good to start. Okay, so again, Solana has competition in this space as well, namely Near Protocol. Near Protocol is looking to become the blockchain operating system. They are focusing as well as onboarding users to Web3, but Solana is a little bit different because Solana is also, providing a new type of service as well. Okay, the phone, right? But nothing actually implemented to a degree right now. So there's no phones to that degree, and Solana is becoming a household name, and that's kind of what we're trying to look at here is, okay, just like, you want to get a new pair of shoes, you look at Nike, Adidas, that sort of thing, or, akin to anything, any new sport or any new hobby. We want people from Web 2 to go, hey, I want to try Web 3. I want to try this new experience, unlock this potential. I've heard so much about Solana. Let me try Solana first. That's what we're trying to capture here, right? And again, that's not to say things are, all perfect for Solana right now. So typically the phone, in this case, is lacking in adoption and network effects. They still have to, play out. And this does take time, A network effect is super important because it pretty much means, hey, if you want to use a service, just like, let's just say it's the Solana phone, for example, well, if you use it, it should benefit me, but it also should benefit the person to the same degree that comes after you, and the person that's the 1,000th person after you, and the 10 millionth person after you. And that's kind of how Facebook grew so powerfully. But again, it does take a long time to get there. And that kind of goes to show with the minuscule 1,900 sales of the phone right now. So not a lot of sales, but hey, it's a part of the game. You got to start somewhere and build up, right? And the great thing is that Solana is becoming a brand name already within the Web3 space, I must admit, for better or for worse. Again, we've all heard the horror stories. Sometimes, it's good to take those on board, but I think that as long as they're progressing and fixing those issues, that is what we're looking for. No network can launch perfectly. They have been involved in some drama in the past, though, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I still think it can, climb that hurdle, right? So again, this is something to prove to draw in Web2 crowds, to claim that name, right? We all started crypto because of Bitcoin or because of Ethereum, right? And so eventually people might start crypto because of Solana. And with that said, guys, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Hopefully the breakdown has sufficed. Again, I don't think the $1,000 mark is going to hit anytime soon, but in my opinion, this is how Solana will have to pivot itself to actually eventually get to that $1,000 mark. All right, guys, take good care. Talk to you all soon. Bye.